Hey everybody, Captain Tim here, coming at you live, earlier than normal for me, with today's Star Trek movie review of Generations. So for me, I'm kind of a night owl, so I normally, and I'm on the Pacific coast of America, so I normally do videos late at night, like usually between 9 and midnight. So this is really early for me because I did a video last night and some of you had actually said like, oh, I'm always in bed or I'm doing something, and asked me if I could do a live video earlier. So now it just hit noon where I'm at. So this is probably the earliest video I've ever done. I actually just woke up, so you guys are gonna have to kind of bear with me. So for today's video, also I'm a little disappointed that I got this outfit when I was almost done with the Next Generation. So I think I'm just gonna break it out like anytime an original crew member or somebody from the original series makes their way into the newer stuff. So, and that happens quite a bit. So I'll probably wear it quite a bit. I really just kind of like it. So today's movie is Generations, which came out in 1994, the same year The Next Generation ended. Oh, also, because I'm doing this during the day, I have to like scoot over because I normally do it in front of my window, and it's just this blinding light. You guys wouldn't even see me. I just look like Jesus or something. Honestly, this video is probably my favorite. Like, I watched this movie over and over and over again as a kid. I loved it. Mostly, I think, because of Data's emotionship, and Data gets all the best lines in this whole video. And I really liked it. But, so, kind of like last night, I'm just going to start at the top and work my way down. And then as you guys come up with comments, like I see Miguel and Jamie are watching, so hey guys. If you guys get comments, go ahead and just jump in, and then I'll just deviate between my notes and whatever you guys have to say. So I'm a little disappointed. The original crew didn't have a lot to do with this movie, and a lot of them turned them down because originally it was supposed to be Kirk, Spock, and Bones on the bridge of the Enterprise B, which to me would have been brilliant, but at this point, DeForest Kelley was not doing well in health, so he had to turn it down. And Leonard Nimoy was actually offered the job to direct it as well, but he had problems with it, and they basically wouldn't let him do anything, and so he just said no, like, altogether. So they basically gave all of Spock's lines to, who is it, Scotty, and they gave Bones' lines to Chekhov. You guys are already jumping in, that's awesome. Jamie, I love Star Trek Generations. It was great to see Data having his motion ships. The Duras sisters were terrific. I agree. Jonathan says, my second favorite Star Trek film after First Contact. So I'm with you. So I think I grew up in San Francisco, so The Voyage Home is really high on my list just because I can point to all the different stuff. But I don't know. I do love First Contact, but as a kid, I didn't really like it. I just didn't find it interesting. But as an adult, I love First Contact now. But we'll get to that later tonight. Probably about 7 o'clock tonight. I'll do the First Contact review live as well. So we finally see the Enterprise B. We've heard of it in the Next Generation series, but we never saw it. We saw the C in yesterday's Enterprise. So it's nice to finally see that. And Alan Ruck does great as Captain Harriman. So I love Alan Ruck. I think he's a great actor. I've met Alan Ruck before. And so going back to like Ferris Bueller's Day Off and what's the other one? Twister, stuff like that. And it's fun because Tim Russ makes an appearance on the bridge of the Enterprise B, which we've seen him in The Next Generation. At this point, he had done an episode of Deep Space Nine. So this is like his third appearance before he starts playing the role of Tuvok. You guys are so much more active today than yesterday. Wow. Jamie says it's just after 10 p.m. here in the UK, which is why I'm trying to do this video at a different time. So maybe I'll get new audience members, because you guys are definitely more active right now than last night. That's fun. So, like I said, so I think it's fun that Alan Ruck is on there and Tim Russ is in there, because years later, Tim Russ directed his own, like, 3-part fan movie, the Star Trek Gods and Men, and Alan Ruck is in that as well. So I thought that was kind of interesting. And overall, it's a fun scene. And that's what I like about Generations, is they got a director that had never done film before. He had only done episodes of The Next Generation. and they kind of brought him in there, and he even said, he's like, I don't know if I'm right about this. And so, like I said, this movie came out like shortly after the series ended, and it just feels like it's part of the series, because they're still wearing their classic uniforms and all of that. And just kind of seeing Kirk and stuff, and like Captain Harriman saying like, "Oh, I read about your missions in grade school." It's just a lot of fun overall with a lot of serious stuff. And my Wi-Fi's starting to act up. Hopefully this works. We see Sulu's daughter, so I thought that was kind of fun. And they say that it's been 30 years since Kirk has been on the Enterprise, so there's been a long time between the A and the B. So I thought that was kind of interesting. I'm going to fly through this because my Wi-Fi is acting funky. So we see the Alorian, I think is how they say it, the refugees, which is, they finally introduced Whoopi Goldberg, which we haven't seen in The Next Generation for a long time. And Malcolm McDowell, who's a great actor. Like, I could list all the stuff he's been in, but he's a great actor. You guys should know him. And evidently, he was the uncle of Alexander Siddig, I think is how you say his name. Captain, Dr. Bashir from Deep Space Nine, which I guess they tried to get him to do a cameo on Deep Space Nine to just kind of reunite those two, but it never worked. From here, it's kind of, we jump to the present, I guess, with Lieutenant Commander Worf. So it's filmed on the ship, the Lady Washington, who is actually based here in the state I live in. It's in Washington. I just haven't quite made it there yet. I keep trying. My goal is to actually do a tour and maybe a live video in June, because it's just, we always miss each other, just between work and personal life and stuff like that. But we see Worf get promoted to Lieutenant Commander, which is great. And then there's a fun scene where it's a lot goes on in this little scene where they say retract plank, not remove plank. And then Data is trying to understand basically slapstick comedy where he pushes Crusher in. Now we've seen both of these instances in the original series where you have to be very precise with your words. And then Data just not understanding humor and trying to get it. Oh, you guys are blowing up and all sorts of stuff. So you guys are just saying random quotes, but I'm fine with that because it's great. We see from there's an attack on a space station and we have to go rescue him. Now, as a kid, so I was not very intelligent as a little kid. I've said that before. I'm going to say it still. So there's like a disruptor, like I think they said it's a class 5 disruptor. And they're like, well, you know what that means. It's either the Romulan, the Breen, or the Klingon. So as a kid, like as a little kid, I always thought they said green and not breen. And I was like, what's a Romulan green? And sure enough, when we see the Romulans and they're all bloody, their blood is green. And so I was like, oh my God, they're different colored Romulans. So it was years later as an adult. I think I actually had it like on subtitles. And I was like, they're saying breen? What the hell's a breen? And then eventually when I watched Deep Space Nine, we actually start seeing the breen. But yeah, that was kind of I guess a confession. I'm a little embarrassed by that. But yeah, it's an awakening as a child that this quote that I knew for years was completely wrong. So we meet Dr. Soren, which again, that's Malcolm McDowell's character in the present. We see Data's emotion chip, which the last time we saw that was the Descent, when he basically like plucked it out of lore. So that was kind of fun. And then one of my favorite scenes, like you guys are popping up with quotes right now, probably one of my favorite scenes, hello Belly, ugh, my little alien, is when Data gets the emotion chip and he walks into Guinan's bar and he does the shot and he's like, oh, it's producing an emotional response. And he's just like, oh, and she's like, well, I think he hates it. Yes, I hate this. This is revolting. More? Yes, please. Like, it's great. I quoted that scene all the time as a kid. It's one of my favorites. And, like, Brent Spiner is such a good actor. And all of the lines he does in this whole movie make this movie the best thing it is. So, return. We realize that Soren's experiments on the station have to deal with trilithium. And they say... the Amagosa station, thank you. They say that it's has to deal with trilithium, and like everybody's like, what is that? Okay, we've seen trilithium in The Next Generation before. My favorite line from the entire movie. Yep, I agree. I'll get to that. Is it me or but when they talk about when Riker says it looks like it took quite a beating. It looks fun. So yeah, I agree, Jonathan. He says like the Amagosa station took quite a beating. I mean, I guess I don't know what it looked like before, but watching it, like, there's no fire or smoke or anything like that. And I was like, yeah, no, it looks okay. I mean, it looks salvageable. So, Geordi and Data go aboard the Amagosa station. Jonathan, I'm glad you said that because I forgot to write that down. I had like 2 pages of notes. I don't know how I missed that one. Again, some great lines where he starts laughing about like the Farpoint station joke where the clown can stay, but the Ferengi in the gorilla suit has to go. It's like the Farpoint station was the pilot 7 years ago, and he just now got the joke, which, I mean, it took me probably more than 7 years to realize they're saying breen and not green, so whatever. Which, if you guys get on like Google or stuff, you guys can look up like fan theories on what the original joke was and then how you get to that punchline. Some people have connected it to, in season 2, episode 4, Data is telling Guinan a joke, and it just starts with the starter, and it's a monk, a clown, and a Ferengi decide to go bowling together. And then some people have actually tried to connect that with the clown can stay, but the Ferengi in the gorilla suit has to go. So it's kind of fun. We see all sorts of different stuff, like the magnetic personality and Mr. Tricorder. The thing that I noticed that I never really caught before until I started really paying attention and doing this is during this scene, Data is actually wearing like the Deep Space Nine uniform, where it's black on the bottom and color on the top. So, and as I was watching this, like Data wears it, Picard switches back and forth. Riker is wearing the color on the top. So, and like anytime they go to 10 forward, it's all over the place. Like just crew members are everywhere. I'm trying to see what you guys are all saying. Watch out for the extra in the back when Data does his first gasp. Yes, when the Klingon ship is destroyed. Oh, I will have to rewind it and go look for that. Scott says, watch out for the extra in the back when Data does his fist, like, yes! When the Klingon ship is destroyed, as the extra couldn't control himself and copies it. Wow, I didn't even notice, to be honest with you, so I'm going to go back and look that up. So we finally see the Duras sisters. So we saw them in, what, like 3 episodes of The Next Generation and Deep Space Nine. They make it their way into the movie. So again, that's one of the reasons I love this movie, is it just feels like a continuation of the series where we see the Duras sisters again. What are you doing over there? Huh? We go to... Hi, Darren. We go to Guinan's quarters, which is kind of interesting because it's almost exactly what you'd expect. But we finally see Guinan with no hat on, and it's just Whoopi's hair. So I thought that was kind of cool. And it's also kind of interesting. Like I said, this movie came out in 1994, but Patrick Stewart and Whoopi Goldberg are also in The Pagemaster, which came out in 1994. Did you know that when Jonathan Frakes was wearing the DS9 uniform at the end, it was actually a spare Avery Brooks? I did, but only because I looked it up. I guess Data and Picard were the only ones who had their new uniforms custom made. Everybody else wore spares from Deep Space Nine. So I did know that, but thank you for pointing it out. Let's see. Pagemaster. So we see the Nexus. Guinan talks about how being in the Nexus is like being inside Joy. Which, I've talked about this kind of before in other stuff, and I could be in the minority in this, and I totally understand that. Like, it's kind of reminiscent of, like, The Matrix. Like, if you could be in that perfect moment for all of eternity, and it's not real, but it's perfect, or would you rather be in the harsh reality? I mean, to be completely honest, I would probably be the Soren in this movie, trying to get back. Like, I'm 100% transparent. I would be like, yeah, I'm going to go back. I'm sorry. Like, if I have to destroy 2 suns, whatever, it happens. But I guess that makes me kind of a bad guy. I'm sorry. I'm a villain. So we see Picard's new outfit. So the Duras sisters kidnap Geordi, and they tamper with his visor, which I don't think that's, or I think that's part of the reason why in the very next movie he doesn't have his visor anymore. But this is also not the first time that we've seen his visor get tampered with for other people's exploit or whatever. Sorry, I'm trying to like read what you guys are saying and this. So Jonathan says, I like the DS9 Voyager uniforms. I do too, and I'm trying. So I love the Next Generation one, where it's probably my favorite, where it's the color on the bottom. I like the Voyager one, where it's the color on the top, but it kind of looks like a cadet uniform to me, but I still like it. I'm sorry, I do. It's real. I hate the gray with the color on the inside. I don't know. To me, it just looks boring, and they all look the same. Kind of like the original series movies, where everybody's just in red except for the strap is the color. Like, I don't know. I hate when they went to that one. So when Deep Space Nine goes to the gray, I'm super disappointed, but Voyager wears the color all the way through, so I'm happy. Jamie says it's brought up in one of the ebooks. Are you talking about like Geordi's eyes? Sorry, I'm all over the place, so sometimes it's hard to see. So they say that the ribbon goes through every 39.1 years, which kind of makes me wish that we'd see it again. You'd think the visor would have a spyware antivirus built in to prevent this. You would, that's a good point. But I don't know, there's a lot where like Star Trek, like realistically, because I think it's also this movie, yeah, it's when they're doing the saucer separation and Geordi has to like pump it by hand. It's a little, you see what you did? It's a little old fashioned, but it works. I still like it. The thing that really kind of hit home to me is when Picard, and they even say, when Picard's talking to Soren about how, so, I totally forgot to bring this up. So we've seen Guinan before, and like when they do the Times Arrow episode, and they go back hundreds of years, and Guinan's like, did my father send you? I brought up in that video, like, when did the Borg actually destroy their people? Because she doesn't seem like overwhelmed, and she mentions her father and stuff. In this movie, they mention that they're refugees. So I think the Borg destroyed their family closer to this movie than it did to Time's Arrow. Like, if you had to split those two timelines, in my opinion, I think the Borg destroyed their people closer to this time. That's just me. And Picard says to Soren, like, you're killing millions of people just so you can get to this ribbon. And Soren says, like, there was a time I'd never hurt a fly. And he's like, you're now better than the Borg at this point. And, like, dude, honestly, like, 100% to watch him do that flip. And it's kind of an interesting thing. And Malcolm McDowell is just such a great actor, where he says, like, nice try, because it is great. My favorite scene of all time in any Star Trek whatsoever, one of you guys already brought it up, is Data scanning for life forms. And just like I just love it. I used to sing that song all the time. Like, it's perfect. And this is, again, where you start seeing Data shine with the emotion chip. And somebody also said, like, the Klingon, after the Klingon bird explodes, which is classic, like, Jonathan Frakes acting, where it just, like, zooms in on his face and fire. And then seeing Data just, yes! And it's so great. We see saucer separation, which is something we hadn't seen. Shit, I don't even remember the last time we saw it. Was it Best of Both Worlds? Because I know we saw it in the pilot, and I think we saw it in some random episode of season 1, and then I don't think we see it again until Best of Both Worlds, and I think that's it. I think they only do it 3 times. So we see it in this one, and then probably the second best line, especially me as a little kid, where, like, swearing was bad because I was in a super religious household. The saucer separations going towards the planet, and just Data's like, oh shit. Arsenal of Freedom. Thank you, Scott. See, you guys are so... Maybe I should do more live videos during the day. You guys are just popping up everywhere. You guys are great. Except for I'm just kind of dying a little bit. So, we see Picard go into the Nexus. So, basically, Soren gets his dream. And this is where the whole movie kind of gets a little funky, because we start getting time travel and stuff. And we see Picard with his family. I didn't even talk about that. Damn. So this movie, when it first starts, Picard talks about like how he is now the end of his line. Because in the season 4, episode 2, Picard goes home right after Best of Both Worlds to be with his family. The name of the episode is Family. And we meet his brother Robert and his son Rene. And we learn at the beginning of this movie that they died. They burned in a fire. And so this whole movie, Picard is super depressed because now he's the last of his line of Picard's. And so in this scene, Picard is now in the Nexus, and he has a family. He has a wife, and he has kids, and Renee is there. I don't know why they got a different actor, because personally I liked the actor that played Renee. He also played young Picard in Rascals. But I thought they could, granted it was years later and he was older, I think that would have been fine. I think they missed the ball, or they dropped the ball recasting him. Something I've never caught until this viewing, one of Picard's kid, it's a little blonde kid, it's Thomas Dekker. Like, how awesome is that? Like, I'm a big Thomas Dekker fan. You can't see it. I have a picture, an autographed picture of him kind of behind me. And that's awesome. He's a great actor. He's great for like queer representation. He's great. And he's in a couple episodes of Voyager later on, but it's just kind of funny because he's like super blonde and he has this British accent. So Guinan ends up showing up, that echo of the Guinan that we know, in a fucking carousel. Like, that always kind of weirded me out. Who has a carousel in their house? But whatever. Jamie says, I imagine it was extremely expensive to do the saucer separation. From what I've read, it really wasn't. At least for the TV show, they just reused the same footage. But they thought that it slowed the plot down because you got all of this buildup, and they're like, saucer separation! Oh, 5 minutes. And that's why when they do it, and I think it was Best of Both Worlds, like, it is instantaneous. You don't even see it. They just say it, and then you see them separated. Because it is a slow acting scene. Even in this movie, it's beautifully shot, but it does kind of slow things down a little bit. And finally, we kind of get to the meat of this movie, the whole like point where we see James Kirk and Picard finally meet. And it's a bitchin' scene. It's really great. Like, I got goosebumps just seeing them together because they're so different of characters. Like, I like the original series and I like The Next Generation, but Kirk and Picard are such different types of leaders that, like, I imagine if they knew each other, they would not be friends because they're so different. But it's amazing to actually see them together. Some of the scenes kind of bothered me a little bit. Like, Kirk wants to go up and marry Antonia. I don't know why they couldn't have said it was Carol Marcus. Evidently it was supposed to be Carol Marcus, but somebody like vetoed it. Somebody that makes more money than I ever will, like the head of Paramount, and was like, nope, make it a different character. And so it wasn't. So I thought that was a little disappointing. We see Captain Kirk and Picard riding horses. Now, evidently, William Shatner is like he owned those horses because he rides a lot. And we have seen Picard riding horses in The Next Generation before, but I guess Patrick Stewart's not really a big one. Overall, this is kind of, it just spirals. Like, this whole movie just is build up, and this is where it goes really quick, where Kirk says the line of, who am I to argue with the captain of the Enterprise? Supposedly that was the most difficult line William Shatner's ever had to say. I just love you guys popping up with comments. This is great. I think this is the most viewers I've had. Kirk brings up Spock, which I thought that was kind of fun because he mentions how this whole mission sounds irrational and illogical, so it sounds fun. And then basically that's it. That's the end. They defeat Soren. Soren kills Kirk in a very sad moment. And that's the end. Everything goes back to normal. They use the Nexus to kind of go back in time a little bit, which to me is kind of weird. Like, the fact that you can come out of the Nexus whenever you want. So, that's a little funky to me. I didn't quite appreciate that, but I guess there's no real way to kind of explain it. They were just like, we're going to pop out right there. So, I mean, realistically, if Kirk wanted to kind of throw Picard under the bus, Kirk could have came out back on the Enterprise B, like behind Scotty and Chekhov, but whatever. So, and I was doing a lot of research because I wanted to make this video really interactive. So I guess they had filmed an ending where basically Soren just stabbed Kirk in the back, and then Picard just stabbed Soren in the back, and people hated it. So they refilmed it to the death scene that it is, where it's Kirk jumping from one side of the bridge to the other, and then it spiraling out. Which, I don't know, I love this ending. I can't, maybe if I saw the other ending, I could weigh the two, but from what I've read, like, I think I prefer this ending. Supposedly Malcolm McDowell received death threats because he killed Kirk, which, I mean, I'm a big fan of the franchise, but some people are just a little bit deeper in it than I am, but that's okay. We see the return of Spot, which is kind of a touching scene where Brent Spiner picks him up and he starts crying. And then as they start to beam out, Riker has the line of, like, I plan to live forever, which I am a huge Gargoyles fan. And Jonathan Frakes is in Gargoyles, and that's basically his whole plan before. Darren says, Kirk had to die a hero. I completely agree. And Jamie, I can't imagine Picard stabbing anyone. I don't know. It kind of depends. Like, I don't remember the name of the episode where they're doing, like, the scan and they keep having to move to the front of the ship. I mean, Picard does some questionable stuff to people in that episode. So, I mean, if it's to save, like, this whole galaxy or to save this planet at least, I can imagine Picard doing some pretty dark stuff. So, but like I said, I don't know. I'd have to see it. And maybe if I watched it, I could be like, no, that's not Picard's character. And I would agree that they had to change it. I don't know. I'd have to see it. It's all hypothetical. So evidently after this, Shatner wasn't a big fan. And so he wrote a book called The Return. And I'm going to try to say this without laughing. So it's called The Return, and it's about the Borg and the Romulans making an alliance, and they basically steal Kirk's body and they put it back together, and they like revive him. And like Scotty's in the book because he was stuck in the transporter, so he's still alive. Spock is in the book, and old Admiral Bones is in the book. You guys are popping up with stuff. What are you saying? One of my favorite quotes from the film: "What we leave behind is not as important as how we've lived." I like that. I mean, that's basically the title of the last episode of Deep Space Nine. And Jamie, I maintain Picard did what he had to do to survive. I completely agree. But same thing. Like, I imagine he would do what he had to do to stop Soren. So anyways, for Shatner's book, The Return, I'm curious if any of you guys have read it. I just can't bring myself to read it yet. I have to, like, mentally prepare. I've read very few Star Trek books. Most of them have been Q related, because I love Q. And most of them have been Peter David written, because I think he's a good author. And I don't know, like, if you guys have read Shatner's The Return, like, do you guys actually really like it? Supposedly, it makes a connection between the Borg and V'ger, which, I mean, that's always been kind of a fan theory as well. So, let me know if you guys have read that. And if you guys actually recommend it, maybe I'll actually do a reading of it. Darren says, I read that book years ago. Shatner tried to keep Kirk alive. So, but did you like it? Like, was it actually well done? Or, like, just every page was it an eye roll? Because, I mean, I agree. Like, he really wanted to keep Kirk alive. And it makes sense. When I get to the 2009 movie, I'll bring that up again, where they offered Spock to return and William Shatner was pissed. And they were like, dude, I'm sorry, Kirk died. And he was like, I wrote a book, he's still alive. So I don't know where that angry Kirk voice came from. Yeah, and there's plenty of letters still left in the alphabet, so that's always fun. Yeah, I'm just going to leave the rest. But personally for me, no, I'll leave that for the next movie. I'll leave you guys a little bit wanting more. But that's basically all I have for my notes and my trivia. Overall, I love this movie. It's probably my favorite Star Trek movie. It's probably this one, and then The Voyage Home, and then First Contact is my top three. Just the acting is superb. The directing is really good. Like I said, it just feels like a continuation of the series, which I think is what it needed. So, and of course, Oh, that's sad. Jonathan said Deanna crashed both the D and the E. That's... Oh, we won't talk about that. That's depressing, because I didn't even think about that. And I think Data steals most of this movie. Yeah, I liked it. I'm sure if I remember, there's a trilogy. Oh, that's even scarier that there's 3 of them. I don't know. I've never read anything written by Shatner, so I don't know if he's actually a good author or not. I'm sure there's an audiobook. I do a lot of audiobooks because I do a lot of work. So it's always fun, especially driving. I just have an audiobook in the background. Oh. So like I said, I love this movie. It's great directing. It's great acting. It's just great all around. I think this is a fantastic movie. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this part short because I've been going for like 30 minutes now, which is probably one of the longer videos I've ever done. If you guys have any last minute questions, comments before I end it, thank you guys for everything. I appreciate all of you. If you guys have any last comments before I hit to all of my thank yous. Darren says, a few books have linked V'ger to the Borg origin. So, yeah, I guess I didn't even know that. I just kind of made that up. I think I have the book. I'll give it a read after I finish the one I'm on. Okay, thank you, Jamie. Let me know. Because you and I talk quite a bit, so I'm interested in your opinion. So thank you guys for all of the... Hey, Tim, when you watch First Contact, can you see how many decks the E has? I guess. I actually watched it last night. I actually binged all 4 of the movies like yesterday. So I can go back and look. They just add them as they're going. That's a thing. They just like push a button and the ship just extends. I don't know, I just made that up. That's not real. But no, I never thought about that before. So I'll have to look that up. So thank you guys for all the likes and the comments. Evidently, maybe I'll do more early videos because you guys are a lot more active and I have a lot more people watching, which is also a little bit more intimidating. Thank you guys for the YouTube subscriptions. That means a lot to me. I really appreciate that. It just kind of makes things easier. And realistically, like, I only try to do like the important episodes or the movies live. But as far as the episodes go, if you guys look at my YouTube, like, there's times I've been 10 episodes ahead on YouTube, and because I don't want to overdo it, I try not to do more than 3 videos in the Facebook group, because after that it gets kind of spammy, and even then I keep them like at least 6 hours apart. So I'm going to do the First Contact review today live as well. It's not going to be in for like at least 6 hours from now, because I don't like doing them so close together, because you guys, I'm sure not everybody likes watching these videos. But so anybody who does watch the YouTube or subscribes, thank you so much. It just kind of makes my life a little bit easier. And then if I do get that far ahead, sometimes I kind of skip the weaker episodes for the Facebook just to kind of keep it caught up a little bit. I'm trying to get a Twitter off the ground, and so that way I can actually tag some Star Trek people just to see if any of them respond. So if you guys have a Twitter, that'd be awesome. Also, just at Tim the Reviewer. I don't know what that means. But overall, just thank you guys for the messages. A lot of you have actually messaged me to just have conversations. And that means a lot to me as well. Like, I love having some conversations with you guys. And some of you have actually said, like, hey, if you're going to do a live video, please let me know first so I can join in. And I try to do that when I can. Darren, love your reviews. Said before, it's like having a fresh set of eyes on them and seeing different perspectives. So thank you, Darren. So I've binged all of Star Trek at least once before. But this is the first time, and like a lot of times, I'm going to admit, like, when you binge a show, especially if you've seen it before, like, there's been a whole episode where I just kind of grab my phone and I'm just playing games on my phone, and then the episode's over and I was like, I don't even know what happened. Whereas because I know I have to do these reviews, like, I am like totally detailed. There's some episodes, and I've admitted those in the reviews, where I'm like, it just didn't grab my attention because I'm just tired or something. But I'm trying so hard to stay focused. And like I said, I've seen Generations tons of times. I never noticed that their uniforms switched back and forth because I was so focused this time. So thank you for that. So thank you guys for sending me messages and just having conversations. I work a lot, and I have my family to deal with, and I have just a lot going on, so I don't always respond. Or sometimes you get like short answers from me. But I do try. And a lot of you send me friend requests. I appreciate that. It makes me feel pretty awesome. But if you don't send me a message, I'm not going to add you as a friend because I don't like adding people I don't know. So just keep that in mind. If any of you are watching this and are like, oh, I want to be friends with him, send me a message first because otherwise you're not going to get a response. Jamie says, I definitely have the return. So that's awesome. I can't wait to see. I just gleeked a little bit. I can't wait to see what you think of it. And let me know. Darren, love the reviews. Scott says GG. I don't know what GG means. Is that gay geeks or good game or